Hello everybody and welcome to another deck profile. So today I'll be doing the artifact deck profile, and this deck has a really cool function with having their own, like popping them in your spells and trap zone. And without further ado, let's get into it. So first off, we play 3 copies of the somewhat newly unlimited artifact Moral Attack. This card, if it's special summoned, you get to destroy a face-up card in the field, non-target, which is really good. The non-target effect particularly because you're able to out problematic boss monsters like Borlow Dragon. It's also really good for interruptions and like just pure removal in general. Secondly, we play 2 copies of Artifact Scythe. This card's really good for locking out your opponent's extra deck. Although in the pure artifact build, it's not as good as splashable artifact engines because you're not trying to get to this consistently. You're trying to sort of make a board, but still, this card is really good for being able to stop your opponent's extra deck, which is pretty meta relevant right now. What's really good is 3 copies of Caduceus. This card is your sustain in the game, your draw power in the game. After turn 1, if you don't have this on the board, you're probably going to have no cards in hand, and you're not going to be able to extend your plays anymore. But if you have this on the field, you're usually able to draw 3-4 cards on like your summon of most of your artifacts, so you're able to have a playable hand on your next turn. For the most part, you're going to want to keep this on your board if you're Xyz summoning with your monsters, just so if you're able to do things on the next turn, you're able to draw more cards. Next, 3 copies of Artifact Molnir. Molnir is surprisingly very good because you're able to bring back your artifacts that you've already used and are in your grave and just reuse their effects. So, for example, if you have a Moral Attack in grave, you can special summon Molnir, bring back Moral Attack, pop 1. You're just able to plus so hard and gain so much advantage off of Molnir. So throughout a lot of testing, 3 is actually like a really good number. Similar to Molnir, Fail Not lets you recycle your resources too. It's not as good as Molnir because you have to reset your resource and then repop it. Whereas Molnir can just special summon it, but Fail Not's still really good for getting you more like sets on the field. Next, 2 Beagle Attack. Beagle Attack's great for popping your own cards. Beagle Attack is better than Vajra because Vajra blows up everything you control. Beagle Attack you get to pick. But Beagle Attack is really good for really getting your monsters onto the board in the first place. And then 2 copies of Lancia. This card's a bit more niche than everything else, but against the banishing matchups like Infernoids, for example, this card's an instant win because you lock them out of one turn and then you spam the board on your next turn and then you just start locking them out of the game or controlling them. And the fact that you can use this as a hand trap too is really good. And then the decent artifacts, we play Vajra, again blowing up your own spells and traps to special summon a bunch of guys to the board. This is sometimes better than Beagle Attack, not always, but you still want to play one at least. Aegis to protect your guys from card destruction, and then Achilles Shield to protect your guys from battle. This card is actually insanely good against rogue matchups because you can make this, and when your opponents try to attack you and they don't have that much removal, they're locked out the battle phase, so on your next turn you can just use your guys to make whatever you want. And then we round off with Chakram. Chakram's good because it special summons itself basically for free. If an artifact or spell trap you control be destroyed, you can return to the hand, then special summon this. Similar to Labris, Labris special summons itself if an artifact is destroyed. I don't think Labris is actually that great, just because it's not super reasonable to summon this all the time, but you can bring back cards like Solemn Strikes if they target it, so you can save those with Chakram. And then onto the other monsters, we play 2 copies of Lilith. Lilith is good for searching Sanctum or Heavy Storm Duster from your deck. You're basically guaranteed it every time, and then once you in the cloak, because it's a tuner and you kind of want to have something to do on your turn, because for the most part you play on your opponent's turn, because all of your artifacts trigger on your opponent's turn. But Steam the Cloak is really good because it's a level 3 tuner, first of all. Secondly, it's really good for link climbing, which is a lot more relevant now. And then we play 3 copies of Artifact Ignition. Ignition is insane. This card's so good. On activation, you get to pop a spell or trap and then set a spell or trap from your deck. And then if your opponent pops Ignition, they skip their next battle phase, which is somewhat relevant. But for the most part, you're able to plus really hard off of Ignition because you can pop your own set and then you get a special summon and then you get to set another one from your deck. Or you can pop your opponent's spell and then set one from your deck, which is basically you're going +1, which is really good. And then 3 copies of Duality, great opener, helps you filter through your deck for important cards like Sanctum or like Lilith. So definitely want Duality, and then a Dark Hole, because if you go second, you want to have some kind of clear that you're able to play through. Yeah, this can be Raigeki, whatever, it doesn't really matter. And for the traps, the best card in the deck, Artifact Sanctum. This card is really, really good because it's a free special from your deck. You're able to trigger any of your artifact effects, and you're able to choose which artifact you want to summon based on your situation. So like if you have like 4 back row and you want to summon Beagle Attack or something to pop your sets, you can just straight up summon Beagle Attack and have their effects trigger. Heavy Storm Duster is also really good for that because you get to trigger your own effects or disrupt your opponent's spells or traps, which makes this card absolutely insane. This card's better than Double Cyclone because you're able to, like, well, first of all, Double Cyclone you're going to be using during your opponent's turn anyways, and Heavy Storm Duster doesn't restrict you to popping one of yours, one of your opponents. It can be 2 of yours or 2 of your opponents or whatever. So yeah, this is just better. And then 2 Malevolent Catastrophe because this isn't as good as anymore because we have Heavy Storm Duster and Sanctum, which is more accessible. But this still comes up to the point where if your opponent's playing like a trap or spell-based heavy deck, and they run into you, you can flip this and blow up their stuff as well as yours. So you still want to play a few of these. And then because your opponent won't be as, well, once they know what you're playing, right? You're playing artifacts, they won't be as willing to pop your sets or whatever. You're able to play the Solemn package pretty reasonably safe, to the point where like they're not going to want to hit your back row because you'll just get all your effects, right? So, and the Solemns in general are really good because they keep you from getting completely swarmed by your opponent. Yeah, so that rounds up the deck. I'm pretty sure that's around 42 cards around there. Onto the extra deck, 2 copies of Durandal. Besides the synergy with the deck and like changing one of your opponent's effects to target one set you control, this is actually really good for disrupting your opponent's searches or even recycling your own hand if you have a bad hand. One Gaia Dragon for piercing and for pushing for damage. Adrius for popping any face up. As a Thought for negating monster effects. Paradise Smasher, this card's really cool and creative. I actually think this card is surprisingly good, even though it does rely a bit on dice. You're able to manipulate those results with this effect, so yeah. It's similar to As a Thought, but I argue this is better. Honor Dark for Steel. Stellar Diamond is instant win against Dark decks. Pleiades for bounce. Voltosaurus for popping power. And get a bit of burn in that too, so Voltosaurus is pretty good for that. And then the links, you play Topologic, Skull Dread, Hippo Shinnigan because you're all light except for the attacks. Skull Dread for draw power, and Topologic because you're able to summon your opponent's turn over and over again. And then the synchro targets for Steam is Scarlight and Beals. Scarlight for board removal and burn, and then Beals for just having a sort of pseudo boss monster. But with that, all that being said, thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts about the deck in the comment section below. This deck was actually really fun to play with, and hope you guys will tune in for the next one.